Good evening, and welcome to the 2018 Novi Fire and Police Department Awards Ceremony. I am David Malloy, and I have the high honor of serving you and all these men and women as the Director of Public Safety, the Chief of Police for the City of Novi. Please join me again in thanking and giving a round of applause to Novi Police Officer Eric Carlamusto and his partner, Mr. Alistair Hill, for playing the bagpipes for our ceremony this evening. At this time, I would like to welcome Imam Abdul Hafiz El-Umari from the Tawheed Center to perform our invocation.
First, I want to greet you with the greetings, Assalamu alaikum. Peace and blessings of the Creator be upon you all. In the name of the Creator, the most gracious, the most merciful, praise be to the Creator, the cherisher, the sustainer of the world, the most gracious, the most merciful, Master of the Day of Judgment. Thee do we worship, thine aid do we seek, guide us to the straight path. The God of all prophets and messengers, as stated in the Quran. O Creator, bless us as we begin a new day. Bless this assembly. Bless the people and the nation it represents. O Creator, at this time in our history, the challenges of our nation and the world are many. O God, grant these men and women the wisdom, the guidance, and the strength to pursue compassion, justice, and sound judgment. O God, in your wisdom, you have placed upon them great responsibility and honor. And O God, please help them with your guidance and your light. O God, grant them the will and the means to improve the well-being of all inhabitants of this great nation and beyond. Amen. Thanks.
Thank you, Imam El-Umari. If we could all please stand and begin our presentation with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. One of the great honors I have is I'm allowed to serve alongside all of the men and women present here and those we will honor here tonight. It is truly one of the highest distinctions one could ever imagine. Tonight we join together to recognize several outstanding individuals who have performed valiantly and professionally in service to our Novi community. Firefighters and police officers take risks and suffer great inconvenience to protect lives, defend civil liberties, secure the safety of their fellow citizens, and they endure such risk and tolerate such inconvenience on behalf of complete strangers and without one bit of hesitation. Dispatchers and our support staff work long hours and are responsible for the behind-the-scenes work so many take for granted. They are the unsung heroes many will never meet, but our work is not possible without them. These men and women we will recognize this evening are the heroes who run towards the danger when everyone else is running the other way. Tonight we will honor their bravery and commend their service. I'd like to take a moment to introduce and recognize some of our special guests with us here tonight. We're honored to have Mayor Bob Gatt with us this evening, Mayor Pro Tem David Stout, Councilmember Gwen Markham, and Councilmember Kelly Breen. Thank you. I'm also honored to have several of my colleagues from city government. We have Director of Parks and Recreation and Cultural Services, Jeff Muck, Director of Human Resources, Tia Grunland-Fox, and Director of Communications, Cheryl Walsh-Malloy. Thank you all for coming out. It is a great honor to serve a community which is so fortunate to have two very professional public safety departments working together seamlessly to deliver emergency services to all residents, business leaders, and visitors who come to Novi. We come together as one with common values of honesty, integrity, professionalism, honor, service, and duty. These are not just words, these are the core values of all members of the Novi Police and Fire Departments that they possess and they emulate on a daily basis. As I call your name this evening, if you could please join me on the stage by entering from my left, your right, and exit stage right. At the conclusion of tonight's ceremony, we will have an opportunity to take several photographs up here on stage. Our video production team is streaming the event via Facebook Live, cityofnovi.org, AT&T Uverse, and Charter Spectrum. In addition, we are sharing information on these awards on Twitter at #NoviAwards18. At this time, if I could please have all members of the Novi Fire Department please stand, raise your right hand, and repeat after me our oath of honor. On my honor, I will never betray my badge, my integrity, my character, or the public trust. I will always have the courage to hold myself and others accountable for our actions. I will always maintain a proficiency in the art and science of fire engineering and emergency medical services. I promise to faithfully and professionally honor my agency and the community I serve. Thank you. Now, if I could please have all the members of the Novi Police Department please stand, raise your right hand, and repeat your oath of honor. On my honor, I will never betray my badge, my integrity, my character, or the public trust. I will always have the courage to hold myself and others accountable for our actions. I will always uphold the Constitution, my community, and the agency I serve. Thank you. Our first award this evening recognizes perfect attendance. The individuals recognized did not use any sick days or any emergency combined time off days in calendar year 2017. As I call your name, if you could kindly hold your applause until all have been recognized, I would greatly appreciate it. Perfect Attendance Award for 2017. If you could please enter Captain Todd Saug, Captain Mark Tyson, Captain John Martin, Captain Joshua Bunsey, Lieutenant Remo Oliverio, Lieutenant Jeffrey Lockman, Sergeant Amanda Kulikowski, Sergeant Kevin Ray, Sergeant Michael Warren, Detective Eric Lindblade, Detective Michael Marchetti, Fire Protection Officer Brian Luke, Fire Protection Officer Daniel Scholke, Fire Protection Officer Matthew Markin, Fire Protection Officer Ryan Cannon, Fire Protection Officer Michael Jacobs, Fire Protection Officer Joe Carpenter, Officer James Brandon, Officer Julie Warren, Officer Jason Bergtold, Officer Eric Carlamusto, Officer Alex Marcioni, Officer Kyle Smith, Officer Stephen Snell, Officer Brandon Bittis, Officer Joshua Russell, Officer Kevin Nutter, Dispatcher Janet Kaplan, Dispatcher Jonathan Dukes, and Dispatcher Brianne Sailors. Each member receiving their certificate before you is recognized tonight for their commitment, their dedication to serving the citizens of our community and beyond. For their dedication, they are awarded the Perfect Attendance Award. Congratulations. If I could have Sergeant Mark Booty, Detective John Zabik, and Captain Mark Tyson please join us on stage. The Novi Police and Fire Departments take great pride in our team members committing to becoming and being lifelong learners. Many of our command officers, our police officers and detectives in the Novi Police and Fire Departments have earned an advanced degree, while several are currently pursuing an advanced degree. Sergeant Mark Booty, Captain Mark Tyson, and Detective John Zabik exemplify that commitment. Sergeant Booty earned a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Ferris State University in 1996. Continuing his education, Sergeant Booty earned his Master's of Science degree with a concentration in emergency management and homeland security from Eastern Michigan University in October of 2017. Captain Mark Tyson earned his bachelor's degree in occupational health and safety from Columbia Southern University in 2015. Like so many other members of the command staff, Captain Tyson is committed to process improvement and bettering himself. After earning his bachelor's degree, he too continued with his educational journey, earning his Master's of Science with a concentration in emergency management and homeland security from Eastern Michigan University in October of 2017. Detective John Zabik earned a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Wayne State University in 1993. He continued his education, earning his master's degree in theological studies with concentration in philosophical theology from Liberty University in May of 2015. Fully embodying the commitment as a lifelong learner, Detective Zabik continued his studies with Liberty University, earning a second master's degree in religious education with concentration in systematic theology in December of 2017. It is my honor to present these gentlemen with their Advanced Educational Degree Awards, and I'm very proud to present Detective John Zabik his second Advanced Educational Degree Award. Congratulations. Officer Tim Farrell, and Andreas Buchwald, if you could, and Ryan Scully, if you could please join us on the stage. Medical tourniquets are proven to be an invaluable tool in the emergency medical field throughout the world. They are small, they're easy to use, and simple to train with, and cost roughly $30. In 2014, the Novi Police Department started issuing life-saving tourniquets to each officer. In addition to the officers, every fire apparatus is equipped with tourniquets. On Wednesday, May 31st, 2017, at approximately 12:49 p.m., Andreas Buchwald and Ryan Scully were traveling northbound on Haggerty Road, south of I-96. When traffic was slowing in front of them, they noticed a large cloud of dust and debris, as if an accident had just occurred. The two men activated their overhead lights on their construction vehicles, and that's when their lives were about to change. As they slowly worked their way through traffic, Andreas observed a motorcyclist had just crashed, and he was lying in the middle of Haggerty Road on top of the I-96 overpass. Andreas and Ryan could see the motorcyclist starting to stand, trying to walk to the side of the road. They saw the cyclist had lost his right foot during the crash, and a large amount of blood was pooling on the ground from his injuries. The two observed bones sticking out of his left arm. Ryan Scully, a veteran of the United States Marine Corps, knew exactly what to do, and he went into action. He acted quickly, and without hesitation, he removed his own belt and tied a makeshift tourniquet above the motorcyclist's right knee to stop the bleeding. As they continued to assess the motorcyclist, Andreas used his own T-shirt and tied a makeshift tourniquet around the cyclist's upper left arm. Ryan and Andreas stayed with the cyclist until rescue crews arrived. Officer Tim Farrell was the first officer to arrive on scene, and he immediately applied his department-issued tourniquet above the belt tourniquet applied earlier by Ryan. Officer Farrell then applied a second issued tourniquet closer to the motorcyclist's shoulder above the T-shirt that was applied by Andreas. Additional emergency medical resources arrived from the Novi Fire Department and community EMS. The victim was immediately transferred to a medical facility. Upon arriving at the hospital, the trauma team started a blood transfusion, and he's prepared for surgery. During surgery, neither the foot nor the arm could be saved. However, if the tourniquets were not applied at the scene, the medical team advised investigators the motorcyclist likely would have succumbed to his injuries. It was later determined the accident was due to the motorcyclist traveling at a high rate of speed while doing a wheelie on his rear tire. The cyclist crashed and struck a guardrail, leaving a debris field covering some 125 feet. Our team recently spoke to the motorcyclist, who is recovering from his injuries and learning to adjust to his new way of life. For their heroic actions, Officer Tim Farrell is awarded the Life Saving Award, and Andreas Buchwald and Ryan Scully are presented civilian citations for putting their own lives at risk to render aid to a stranger in need. Congratulations. Mr. Mo Leon, if you could please join us. When I think of a charitable business in Novi, the first business that comes to mind is Mo's on 10. It's truly a community gathering place where everyone feels welcome, and this starts with Mo, who typically is at the front door to greet you by name, ask about your family, and show you to your seat. His passion for people is evident from the minute you meet him, and he has a unique ability to make everyone feel as if they are the most important person in the room, and to Mo, they really are. He never wants someone to go without a good meal, and he especially doesn't want that to happen on Thanksgiving, a time when food brings families together to share stories and share laughs and preserve memories for a lifetime. For almost 30 years, Mo and his wife Debbie and all their children have made sure no one in Novi and our surrounding communities goes without a Thanksgiving meal. More importantly, that no one goes without feeling part of their family. The Thanksgiving meal is one of Mo's favorite days of the year and is on the Wednesday prior to Thanksgiving, and he serves hundreds of customers for free. In fact, their restaurant actually only accepts donation from those who are willing to give. Not being satisfied to offer only a free turkey dinner, those donations don't go to offset the cost of the food or his staff, but rather Mo uses that money, again, to give back to the community in a very unique way. For the past 3 years, Mo and his family have donated the money his business receives from charitable donations to purchase gift cards. Not just a few gift cards, but hundreds that sparked a community-wide partnership with the Novi Police and Fire Departments called Kindness is Contagious. Those very same gift cards are then given back to citizens through the contact our police officers and firefighters have during the course of their duties with someone that either is deserving or in need during the holiday season. Those generous efforts by Mo Leon were recognized early by the city of Novi, who created a video, Kindness is Contagious, and its viewing on Facebook in 2016 and again in 2017. Those videos immediately went viral on social media and garnered worldwide attention, reaching over 220,000 people with several thousand likes. Routine comments were made such as heartwarming, proud of my city, I love living in Novi. As a successful small business owner, Mo Leon doesn't feel obligated to give back to the community from which he draws. He does it purely from the kindness of his heart and his passion for the people of our city. On behalf of all the men and women of the Novi Police and Fire Departments, along with the community we serve and the hundreds of people you have helped, thank you, Mo, for your continued support and contagious generosity. It goes without saying that Novi is truly a better place because of Mo and the Leon family, and it's because of this he is being awarded a Civilian Commendation Award. Congratulations. Sergeant Michael Warren, Captain John Martin, Officer Scott Woodley, and Fire Inspector Greg Thomas. On June 8th, 2017, Officer Scott Woodley didn't know it, but while he was on patrol, the route he traveled was going to put him in position to save a life. In the early evening of June 8th, Officer Woodley was stopped for a red traffic signal westbound on 10 Mile Road at Beck Road. He was stopped only a few cars back from the intersection, and that's when he heard a loud crash. A motorcyclist traveling northbound on Beck Road collided with a vehicle that was turning from southbound Beck Road onto eastbound 10 Mile Road. The collision caused the motorcyclist to be violently thrown to the shoulder off Beck, north of 10 Mile. Officer Woodley quickly pulled his vehicle near the injured motorcyclist. As he approached the cyclist, he observed the victim's leg was amputated below the knee. Officer Woodley further observed the cyclist had a deep laceration to his upper left thigh, and he immediately removed and applied his tourniquet. Off-duty Livonia Fire Inspector Greg Thomas stopped at the scene to render aid, and together Officer Woodley and Fire Inspector Thomas applied the tourniquet to the motorcyclist's right upper thigh. Sergeant Michael Warren and Captain John Martin arrived on scene, and it was observed that the leg was still bleeding. Sergeant Warren provided his tourniquet to Captain Martin. Sergeant Warren then went to the injured motorcyclist who was beginning to go into shock. He held him still so that treatment could be continued. Captain Martin, meanwhile, assisted with a quick clot, which was applied to the other laceration. The bleeding from the amputation finally stopped, and the motorcyclist was transferred for immediate medical care. It was later learned that the motorcyclist was given 7 units of blood after arriving at the hospital, and medical personnel at this hospital were unable to save his leg. Additionally, he suffered a broken wrist, a perforated bladder, and lung contusions. According to the attending trauma physician and the surgeon, the motorcyclist would likely have succumbed to his injuries if it were not for the immediate medical attention he received by these first responders. We recently learned that the motorcyclist is recovering from his injuries, and he too continues to assimilate to his new lifestyle. For their heroic life-saving efforts, Sergeant Warren, Captain Martin, and Officer Woodley are awarded the Life-Saving Award, and we are very proud to present Fire Inspector Greg Thomas with a merit citation. Congratulations. Lieutenant John Nelson, Lieutenant Paul Mullett, Sergeant Michael Warren, Fire Protection Officer Daniel Scholke, Fire Protection Officer Michael Jacobs, and Miss Lisa Matson. If you could please join us. The Novi Police and Fire Departments encourages our community with an important motto: if you see something, say something. We learned 2 things on January 5th, 2017. That slogan can save a life, and our partners at the United States Postal Office do more than just deliver the mail. United States Postal employee Lisa Matson heard an audible alarm while performing her duties in northern Novi. She tracked the sound to a condo on Carlton Way and saw water coming from the garage door. Miss Matson called the Novi Dispatch Center and waited for the Novi Fire Department to arrive so she could show them which condo the sound was coming from. Novi Fire Protection Officer Dan Scholke, Fire Protection Officer Mike Jacobs, and Lieutenant Paul Mullett were sent to the scene on Carlton Way. They were not able to get a response at the door, nor could they reach any of the persons listed on residence by phone numbers. They did not have cause to force entry in the home, however, were suspicious enough to call for additional assistance. They requested help from the Novi Police Department, and Lieutenant John Nelson and Sergeant Michael Warren responded. Lieutenant Nelson is trained in using non-destructive entry techniques to enter a home without damaging property. He was able to open the door using his techniques, and rescuers could immediately smell the odor of vehicle or furnace exhaust. All of these individuals entered the home and conducted a safety sweep. They found a 54-year-old resident unconscious, lying in bed. He was unresponsive and transported to Detroit Receiving Hospital, where he was placed into a medically induced coma and placed into a hyperbaric chamber. The resident's vehicle had been running in the garage for 4.5 hours. Inside the attached garage, the dangerous gas levels inside the residence were so high they were above any readings on our 4 gas monitors deployed by the fire department. The CO2 levels were above dangerous levels in 4 other attached condominiums. At Detroit Receiving Hospital, the resident's carboxyhemoglobin level was 24.7, with normal being 0.2 to 0.4. The resident eventually regained consciousness and returned home. We later learned that he had recently moved from California, started his car, but didn't open the garage door. He then took a couple of work calls and forgot his car was running before succumbing to the odors. The resident has since made a full recovery. Due to the concerted effort of everyone and all these people on stage here, the resident would have died due to the level of CO2 inside the residence, and most likely others in adjacent condominiums. For their efforts, Lieutenant Nelson, Lieutenant Mullett, Sergeant Warren, Fire Protection Officers Scholke and Jacobs are presented the Life-Saving Award, and Lisa Matson is awarded a civilian citation. Congratulations. If I could please have these teammates join me. Officer Michael Daisley, Fire Protection Officer Andy Copeland, Lieutenant Matthew Blamey, Officer Matthew Halasic, Firefighter Matthew Green, Firefighter Justin Jacobs, Fire Protection Officer Joe Carpenter, Firefighter Kim Giovannini, Officer Elisa Harwell, Fire Protection Officer David Peeknick, Fire Protection Officer Brian Luke, Lieutenant Mark Pearson, Captain John Martin, Officer Stephen Snell, Officer Rachel Meyer, Officer Joshua Russell, Firefighter Daniel Eller, Fire Protection Officer Peter Bruhan, Sergeant Bob Minar, Officer Stacy Simon, Officer Joshua Johnson, Officer Alex Marchioni, Officer Tim Hartland, Officer Paige McCary, Firefighter Scott Disher, Officer Haley Penzak, Officer Samantha Grockow, Officer Daniel Jenkinson, and Sergeant Michael Warren. In July of 2015, each member of the Novi Police and Fire Departments was trained in the use of nasal naloxone, a life-saving antidote that reverses the effect of an opioid and heroin overdose. When administered properly, an overdose victim will become responsive within minutes, and in many cases will walk to the ambulance under their own power. Since our public safety teams have began carrying naloxone in 2015, 51 lives have been saved in Novi. In 2017, we responded to 28 opioid or heroin overdoses. In these cases, the victims were found unresponsive with agonal breathing. Each of these first responders standing with me effectively administered nasal naloxone to a victim, thus saving their life. Together, these first responders saved 27 of the 29 lives from an overdose in 2017. I am very proud to honor each of them with a life-saving award. Congratulations. Sergeant Mark Booty. As an organization, we are committed to advanced education and challenging our men and women to advance to the next level, regardless of the task or the assignment. We are fortunate to have Eastern Michigan University as a partner in this educational process, as they host a highly acclaimed executive leadership training in the School of Police, Staff, and Command. This educational opportunity meets 1 week a month for 10 months. The school is comprised of police command officers ranked from sergeant to chiefs of police to sheriff to directors, and provides executive-level academic instruction in a total of 5 core or mandatory blocks of instruction, and utilizes over 30 additional optional basic blocks of instruction during each session. Major topics of study include leadership development, planning and decision-making, human resource management, administration of the police agency, and critical incidents in Homeland Security. This program has graduated over 2,000 students since its creation in 1985. In October of 2017, Sergeant Mark Booty graduated from the 33rd class of the Eastern Michigan University School of Police, Staff, and Command with 50 other law enforcement executives representing 37 different agencies from this great state of Michigan. For his accomplishment, please join me as we present Sergeant Mark Booty with the Distinguished Staff and Command Award. Director Jeff Johnson. On June 8, 2017, Director of EMS and Fire Operations Jeffrey Johnson completed the extensive Executive Fire Officer Program, EFO, at the National Fire Academy in Emmitsburg, Maryland. Executive Fire Officer students pursue a path of professional development that spans a total of 4 years, completing 1 course per year. Each course is 2 weeks in duration and is the equivalent of an upper division baccalaureate or graduate level course. Additionally, each student must complete an applied research project that relates to their organization within 6 months following the completion of each 4 courses. The first year course is executive development. The second year course is analysis of community risk reduction. The third year, executive analysis of service operations and emergency management. And the fourth and final covers executive leadership. Completing the EFO program places Director Johnson's academic achievement among an elite group in the fire service of leaders from throughout the United States. For his professional dedication to the city of Novi, his department, his community, and his profession, it is my honor to award Director Jeff Johnson with the National Fire Academy Award. Congratulations. Captain Philip Dysminski. Captain Dysminski serves as our training officer in the Novi Fire Department and has a sustained commitment to research, best practices, and implementing the top-notch training and education for the more than 100 men and women of the Novi Fire Department. For a second time in recent years, Captain Dysminski has authored and been published in the Fire Engineering magazine. His most recent article was an April of 2017 edition of Fire Engineering and was titled, Reaching Students, Effective Domain of Learning. Tonight, we are recognizing Captain Dysminski for his outstanding work in the fire service, which has brought a great credit to not only the Novi Fire Department, but in recognition of the exceptional service all of our men and women do. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating Captain Dysminski as we present him a merit citation. Officer Paul Leslie, Officer Eric Tapia, Officer Julie Warren. For police officers, being attentive to the activity on their shift can lead to great things. On November 13th, 2017, attention to detail led to quickly resolving a home invasion where the resident was home at the time of the crime. Officers Leslie and Tapia responded to an address on Leroy Drive for a simple lost cell phone report. The GPS locator on the phone indicated the phone was inside a residence, however, no one would answer the door. Nearly 4 hours later, the simple lost cell phone case took a violent turn. The police department received a call from the resident at the Leroy address reporting a home invasion. Apparently, a female suspect knocked on the door, and as the victim opened the door, the female pushed her way in, assaulted the victim, and stole her phone. The complainant from the lost cell phone case believed her phone was inside the Leroy address and further believed the phone she took from the victim was in fact hers. Our complainant from the lost cell phone case was now a suspect in a violent home invasion case. The suspect's boyfriend was also present during the home invasion. At the time of the attack, the victim was 6 months pregnant and her 18-month child was at home with her at the time. Officers Leslie and Tapia responded to the suspect's home and spoke to her father, who indicated his daughter was at the Metro PCS store on Grand River Avenue, east of Meadowbrook Road. Officers also tracked the victim's cell phone, which was showing it was nearby the Metro PCS store as well. Officers Tapia and Warren responded to the store and located both suspects, who were arrested without incident. The female suspect remembered Officer Warren from a prior complaint and agreed to speak to her and ultimately confessed to this crime as a result of the trust that Officer Warren had built with her during that prior contact. During the interview, the suspect said she should have let the police handle her lost cell phone case, but she needed her phone. The victim's cell phone was located in the suspect vehicle. Officers Leslie, Tapia, and Warren all worked together to bring this home invasion to a successful resolution. Through a coordinated approach, officers were able to immediately obtain the critical information, locate the suspects, make an arrest, and obtain a confession. Both suspects were charged with home invasion in the first degree and unarmed robbery. Their cases are currently pending in circuit court. Please join me in congratulating Officer Warren for her efforts as we present her with a unit citation. Officer Brandon Bittis, Officer Deanna Stevenson. At times, police work can be less about fighting crime and more about being a part of the community. This was never more evident than on December 1st of 2017. Officers Bittis and Stevenson were dispatched to an unconscious person on Summit Drive. And unfortunately, the 35-year-old husband and father of 3 suddenly passed away, and emergency medical personnel were unable to revive the victim. Sadly, he left behind his wife and 3 young girls, all under the age of 5. Officers Bittis and Stevenson took it upon themselves to solicit monetary donations from fellow officers on their team and were able to collect approximately $250 in contributions. They then went out on their personal time and purchased presents for the children with the hope of easing the pain of losing their father in such a sudden and unexpected manner. The mother and children were out of town around Christmas Day, so on January 5th, Officers Bittis and Stevenson were able to visit the residence and deliver the presents. The children were excited, opened the wrapped packages, and immediately began playing with their toys. Officer Biddison Stevenson described this experience as an awesome interaction. Although the children are still trying to fully grasp the idea that they no longer have a father, this generous and compassionate gesture by these officers will no doubt remind them that the part of the Novi community who supports them at all levels. The women and men of the Novi Police Department take every advantage to treat every contact as an opportunity to build public trust. The selfless generosity of these officers embodies that mission. Please join me in presenting Officers Biddis and Stevenson with a letter of commendation. Mr. Eric Franceschi. A police department never wants to hear someone is involved in a serious car crash, let alone one of their own officers who was involved in a car accident has been taken to the hospital. That is exactly what happened to the Novi Police Department on the night of July 5th, 2017. A Novi officer was involved in a violent traffic crash at the intersection of Haggerty Road and 8 Mile Road. The impact of this crash was so significant that the patrol car was severely damaged and all airbags deployed. Somewhat dazed from the traumatic incident, the officer was able to call in his location and request emergency assistance. However, he was having difficulty getting out of the patrol car due to the airbags, the seatbelt restraints, and the damage. Eric Franceschi, a firefighter with the Wayne County Airport Authority, happened to be driving by during the time of the crash, and he immediately stopped to help any injured parties. Eric was able to cut the patrol car airbags and assisted the officer in getting him out of the car. He recognized that other drivers were having trouble driving around the accidents, so he set up a traffic pattern using traffic cones and stayed with the officer until rescue crews arrived. The City of Novi will be forever grateful to you for rendering aid to one of our own family members. It's my distinct pleasure to present Mr. Eric Franceschi with a civilian citation. Congratulations. Mr. Jason Torres, Mr. Charles Wilson, and Mr. Robert Taylor. While these men were playing, on the evening of January 9th, 2017, members of the Sports Club of Novi were playing indoor tennis. This evening would be very different for Jason Torres, Charles Williams, and Robert Taylor. While these men were playing tennis, another member of the club suddenly went into cardiac arrest right in front of them. Bystanders described the scene as the patient bent forward and fell to the ground. The next thing they knew, he was laying on his back on the tennis court, and witnesses reported this all happened in very slow motion. Jason, Charles, and Robert quickly assessed the patient and realized he was not breathing and was lying motionless. Jason quickly ran to get the facility's automatic external defibrillator, the AED, and alerted their staff to call 911. Meanwhile, Charles and Robert initiated compression-only CPR. Both took turns performing compressions until Jason returned back with the AED. At the time, the device was quickly attached and it began to assess the patient. And due to the patient's condition, the device advised them to shock. And after the first shock, they resumed CPR. To the amazement, the AED advised them to shock a second time. Upon the arrival of the Novi Fire Department, the patient was alert, conscious, and answering questions. The patient stated that he was playing tennis, and the next thing he realized, he was on his back staring at the ceiling. The only complaint from the patient was that his chest hurt. The patient was quickly taken by ambulance to a local hospital for further care and monitoring. For their selfless actions, which clearly saved the life of this man, we are proud to award them a civilian citation. Congratulations. Detective Jeff Brown, Officer Jim Brandon, Officer Andy Hudacek, Officer Tim Shea, Officer Paige McCary. As mentioned in so many earlier award nominations, the Novi Police and Fire Departments exemplify teamwork in every aspect of their responsibilities. Oftentimes, teamwork, excellent police work, and community policing come together for positive outcomes. This was never more evident than on December 18th, 2017, when Officers McCary and Brandon were dispatched on a larceny complaint on Mitchell Drive in the Brownstones community. The resident reported a female and a male had taken a delivered package off her porch. Officer McCary immediately obtained the initial information, including the vehicle description from the complainant, and broadcast the information to other responding units. Officer Brandon and other officers began to search the area for the suspect vehicle. Shortly thereafter, Officer Brandon located a vehicle matching the description in front of a home in the same neighborhood. From a previous complaint and his community relationship with the Brownstones management team, Jim recognized the address as belonging to a recently terminated Brownstone employee. Officers Shea and Hudacek responded to the address to assist and made contact with the residents who owned the car. The male and female residents denied involvement in the theft. Following the probable cause of the vehicle matching and following his investigative instincts, Officer Shea was eventually able to obtain a consent to search the residence. Their relentless effort was about to pay off as the male resident admitted to the theft and surrendered the property to the officers. During their consensual search, Officers Shea and Hudacek recovered numerous items previously stolen as package deliveries. Some were from prior reports in Novi and some from adjoining jurisdictions. In fact, an item stolen in December of 2014 was recovered during the search, and both suspects were arrested. Detective Brown interviewed the suspects at police headquarters and learned that the two had been married for 10 years, they were unemployed, and about to be evicted from their home. One suspect provided a full confession, stated he had stolen between 10 to 25 packages in Novi and beyond. In all, 5 victims were identified, and Detective Brown was able to return a number of stolen items to families just before the holidays. On December 19, 2017, both suspects were arraigned on larceny charges and were lodged in the Oakland County Jail, and their case is currently pending in circuit court. For their quick investigative actions and working as a team determined never to give up, please join me in recognizing these individuals as we award them with a unit citation. Congratulations. Fire Protection Officer Tim Porter. On the evening of December 27, 2017, at approximately 8:40 p.m., Fire Protection Officer Tim Porter was leaving the Franklin Athletic Club to return home. While waiting to exit the club parking lot onto Northwestern Highway, a multiple vehicle accident occurred in front of Fire Protection Officer Porter. A van struck a car and sent both vehicles spinning out of control. The van veered off the roadway, striking a light pole where it came to rest. The other car involved violently spun 360 degrees and landed up in the median. Debris was strewn all over the roadway due to the collision. Tim was shocked at what he had just witnessed, and his instinct to render aid immediately kicked in. He jumped out of the truck, directing his attention to the vehicle with the most damage, the van. As Tim approached the van, he expected to find someone injured or trapped. The female driver of the van stepped out uninjured. Tim assessed the van driver, but she was not complaining of any injuries. Bystanders who witnessed the accident called 911 and began coming to the damaged vehicles. Knowing that there was potentially more patients, Tim had the female driver from the van stay with another bystander. He then turned his attention to the car that was involved. He could see that there was someone in the car that appeared to be not moving. Tim was able to gain access to the occupant and found him to be unconscious but breathing. Due to the mechanism of injury, Tim took manual control of the patient's head, all the while continually assessing his patient. The driver did regain consciousness long enough to move his hands and toes and state his name. Tim continued to provide patient care until the Southfield Fire Department arrived and extricated the patient from the car. Once extricated, the patient was treated and transported to a local hospital for further treatment and care. Shortly after the patient was transported from the scene, Tim found out that the patient was an active duty Detroit firefighter. The Novi Fire Department received a very thankful card, which was heartfelt, from the firefighter's family, thanking Tim for his swift and caring actions. Sadly, we learned just a few weeks ago that the firefighter succumbed to his injuries from the accident and passed away. For responding to the needs of the public, even when off duty and not even in his own community, and always going above and beyond, please join me in recognizing Fire Protection Officer Tim Porter as he's awarded a departmental citation. Fire Protection Officer Andrew Copeland, Fire Protection Officer Patrick Deneau, Community EMS Paramedic Clarice Whiteside, Community EMS Paramedic Haley Renee. On June 2nd, 2017, Novi Fire Department Engine 3 responded to the Thornton Creek Elementary School for a person complaining of chest pains. Engine 3, led by Fire Protection Officers Copeland and Deneau, was on scene within minutes and found a female patient lying outside on the sidewalk, complaining of chest pain and not feeling well. Fire Protection Officers Copeland and Deneau immediately initiated a rapid assessment and obtained vital signs. Community EMS Alpha 759 arrived to assist with care. Recognizing that the patient was continuing to decline, Engine 3 personnel and paramedics Whiteside and Renee assisted the patient onto the stretcher and into the ambulance. While the patient was being readied for transport to the hospital, she suddenly became unconscious and stopped breathing. The cardiac monitor showed that the patient's heart was in ventricular fibrillation, a life-threatening heart condition. Immediately assessing the patient's situation, Engine 3's crew quickly initiated CPR, while community EMS paramedics Whiteside and Renee began advanced cardiac procedures. One shock from the defibrillator was delivered to the patient's heart. A quick check of the monitor showed that the shock was enough to restore the heart to a normal condition with a strong pulse. The patient resumed breathing on her own, and an oxygen mask was applied. Fire Protection Officer Patrick Deneau drove the ambulance Priority 1 to St. John Providence Park Hospital here in Novi. The diagnosis from the hospital determined that the patient had a 99% heart blockage in the main cardiac artery. Surgery was immediately performed to correct the blockage, and days after, the patient was released from the hospital on her own accord. For their actions, Fire Protection Officers Andrew Copeland, Patrick Deneau, and Community EMS paramedics Clarice Whiteside and Haley Renee are awarded the Life Saving Award. Congratulations. Sergeant Michael Warren, Officer Jason Meyer, Officer Haley Penzak, Officer Paul Leslie, Officer Eric Tapia. On September 24th, 2017, at 3:53 p.m., a resident walked into the Novi Police Department reporting her 36-year-old boyfriend was suicidal. The boyfriend was communicating with the complainant via text message. He was threatening to kill himself and was sending pictures of himself with apparent self-inflicted wounds. Sergeant Warren, Officer Penzak, and Officer Leslie responded to the last known address of the suicidal subject, only to learn that the address was incorrect. Through some creative and quick follow-up, they learned the correct address from the subject's mother. Officers responded to the correct address and could quickly see the subject inside the apartment, but he would not answer the door. It was evident the subject knew it was in fact the police at the door, but he was refusing to answer the door or speak to the officers. Through his experience, Sergeant Warren recognized the situation was quickly deteriorating and required a special response. Officers surrounded the residence to ensure the safety of those living in the area, to keep the incident from contained inside the subject's apartment. Unknown to the suicidal subject, Sergeant Warren had two members of the crisis management team on his shift that day. Officers Meyer and Tapia were summoned to the scene, and after speaking to the complainant, Officer Meyer made his first phone call to the subject, who did not answer. The subject answered the second call from Officer Meyer, only to say that he feared the police and was afraid of being arrested. That call, too, was terminated. Two more phone calls were made to the subject, but he continued to hang up. It wasn't until the fifth call when Officer Meyer was able to establish a rapport and build public trust, and the subject who emerged from the home and was taken into protective custody without incident. Every negotiator requires a team member to record their activities, and Officer Tapia recorded everything Officer Meyer was doing, allowing Officer Meyer to focus and concentrate on his negotiations with the subject. This is another excellent example of leadership, teamwork, and relentless positive action, bringing a volatile situation to a peaceful resolution, ensuring the safety of our Novi residents. The subject was taken to the hospital for medical evaluation. For their actions, please join me in recognizing these officers as they are presented a merit citation. Detective Michael Bender, Officer Tim Hartland, Officer Matt Halasik, Officer Andy Hudacek. As I indicated earlier, a message that we continually tell our community is if you see something, say something, and that's exactly what happened on the night of May 8th, 2017, when a resident observed a suspicious person checking car door handles in the Walden Woods residential community at 1:20 in the morning. The caller reported last seeing the subject driving a black SUV. Officer Halasik arrived within minutes to find what appeared to be a lone male sitting in the driver's seat of a black SUV with an interior light on. As Officer Halasik approached the vehicle, his line of sight was interrupted momentarily. When he regained his line of sight, the driver's door was ajar and no one was in the driver's seat. Officer Halasik could hear a noise off to his left. He made eye contact with the suspect, who then took off running. Officer Halasik suddenly found himself in a foot pursuit, and as the suspect ran away, he threw a blanket to the ground. The suspect ran about 200 yards and into a retention pond in an attempt to evade apprehension. Little did he know, but Officer Halasik's relentless and follow-up, along with the assistance of Officer Hudacek, they quickly took the 15-year-old suspect into custody without incident. The black SUV was still occupied by a second suspect, a 14-year-old female, who was also taken into custody. While searching the black SUV, Officer Hartland learned the vehicle was reported stolen out of Novi just 3 days earlier. During the vehicle search, several other stolen items were recovered. One victim was located at the scene that identified the blanket thrown by the 15-year-old suspect as belonging to him, and it was out of his car. Detective Michael Bender began to comb through other larceny cases occurring in Novi when he found one case reported the day earlier. The stolen property in that case matched the property recovered in the stolen vehicle by Officer Hartland. Officer Halasik interviewed the 14-year-old female with her mother present and learned the two suspects were brother and sister who ran away from their home just 4 days prior. The two of them walked for 2 days and eventually stole the black SUV from the extended stay hotel in Novi and began their 2-day crime spree. The men and women of the Novi Police Department are known for their relentless follow-up and assessment, contributing to a 50+% clearance rate, almost twice the national average. If not for the unforgiving determination of the Novi police officers and Detective Bender, this 2-day crime spree may have not been stopped. Because both suspects are juveniles and reside in Wayne County, they were both charged as juveniles in the Wayne County Probate Court. The 14-year-old female was charged with receiving and concealing stolen property, while her 15-year-old brother was charged with unlawful driving away of an automobile, resisting and obstructing a police officer, breaking and entering, and a curfew violation. The determination of this team cleared up 3 criminal cases here in Novi, and for their efforts, we present them with a unit citation. Congratulations. Officer Joshua Chapman. Oftentimes in police work, attention to detail can turn out to be our best tool. Officer Chapman was on regular patrol in the area of West Park Drive and Humboldt Drive on the night of July 4th, 2017. That's when he spotted a vehicle with an improper license plate. He conducted a traffic stop and made contact with the driver of the vehicle and immediately detected the odor of marijuana coming from inside the car. Further investigation revealed the driver was driving on a suspended license, and the driver admitted to Officer Chapman that he had a handgun in the glove box of his vehicle. Officer Chapman quickly and safely retrieved a .45 caliber Glock pistol from the glove box of the vehicle. No round was in the chamber, however, a loaded magazine was inserted in the gun, and the weapon was not registered. The driver was arrested for driving while license suspended and carrying a concealed weapon, and a 2-count warrant was issued for the driver for carrying the concealed weapon and the driver's license charge. He pled guilty to these charges on August 8, 2017, and was sentenced to the Michigan Department of Corrections. This case is another great example of a simple traffic stop turning into something much bigger, and because of Officer Chapman's determination, an unregistered handgun was taken off our streets. For his attention to detail and commitment to keeping his policing district safe, Officer Chapman is awarded a letter of commendation. Congratulations. Fire Protection Officer Joseph Carpenter, Auxiliary Firefighter Douglas Mobes, and Lieutenant Paul Mullet. On the afternoon of March 7, 2017, the Novi Fire Department was dispatched to a person who was passed out and was not breathing. Rescue 2 and Lieutenant Mullet arrived to find a 44-year-old male lying supine on a warehouse floor, surrounded by coworkers. The patient had no pulse and was not breathing. No CPR was initiated, and the patient had been witnessed suddenly collapsing 5 minutes prior to the arrival of emergency units. Firefighters Carpenter and Mobes immediately removed the patient's shirt and initiated chest compressions. The AED was applied within 2 minutes of arrival, and 1 shock being delivered, and CPR resumed. A breathing tube was inserted into the patient's airway, allowing rescuers to breathe for the patient. This was an example of textbook life support maneuvers performed by the Novi Fire Department personnel. Community emergency medical services arrived on scene to take over advanced life support functions, and once the patient was transferred to the ambulance company's cardiac monitor, a proper heart rhythm was observed. Novi Fire personnel reassessed the patient and found a strong carotid pulse. The tube was removed once the patient began to breathe on his own, and the patient was loaded into the ambulance and transported to an area hospital for advanced care. For their relentless efforts and determination, firefighters Joe Carpenter, Doug Mobes, and Lieutenant Paul Mullet are awarded a life-saving award. Congratulations. Officer Joshua Johnson. Each year, we recognize the officer who makes the most drunk driving arrests and has a significant impact on traffic safety within the police department and throughout our community. Officer Joshua Johnson emerged in 2017 as a leader in our efforts to reduce drunk driving, as well as the potential fatal impacts drunk driving can have on our roads here in Novi. Officer Johnson started his career with the Novi Police Department in September of 2014. His commitment to reduce drunk driving is evident in his traffic enforcement efforts, last year making 666 traffic stops, 114 arrests, and 25 drunk driving arrests. Officer Johnson was ranked #1 in overall arrests in 2017. For his sustained efforts in keeping our roadways free from dangerous drunk drivers, please join me in honoring Officer Josh Johnson with his first Mothers Against Drunk Driver Award for his outstanding efforts in alcohol enforcement with the 2017 MAT Award. Congratulations. Officer Kevin Nutter. On November 4th, 2017, Officer Nutter conducted a traffic stop for a defective equipment violation at 1 a.m. Officer Nutter made contact with a 16-year-old driver and a 17-year-old passenger. He noted that the driver was out past curfew and he was not in possession of his identification. There was an odor of marijuana coming from within the vehicle, and after further questioning, Officer Nutter conducted a search of the vehicle and located a backpack inside the car. Officer Nutter also located a loaded 9mm handgun in the backpack. The 16-year-old driver admitted the backpack and gun belonged to him. A law enforcement information network check of the gun revealed it was reported stolen out of Redford Township in 2014. The driver was then arrested for carrying a concealed weapon, and he was lodged in the Oakland County's Children's Village and was charged with carrying a concealed weapon. His case is still pending in probate court. Please join me in recognizing Officer Kevin Nutter for his observation and investigative skills on a simple traffic stop that turned into a carrying a concealed pistol case. He is awarded a letter of commendation. Officer Michael Walton. On April 29, 2017, at 9:30 p.m., Officer Walton thought he was simply making another traffic stop for a speeding violator near 9 Mile and Meadowbrook Roads. After investigating, he learned the driver was operating a motor vehicle on a suspended license. The driver was placed under arrest without incident, and that's when this case took a serious turn. During a search of the driver's vehicle, a Springfield Armory 9mm pistol was found in the glove box. 24 marijuana plants were also located in the back seat of the vehicle. During a search of the driver's vehicle, Officer Walton was able to find this contraband and continued his investigation. He conducted a post-Miranda interview of the driver, who admitted he was on his way home from Grand Rapids, where he was supposed to meet a potential buyer for the marijuana plants, but the buyer never showed. The driver also admitted the gun found in the glove box was his, to which he had no license to carry it. Officer Walton's case was presented to the prosecutor's office, and charges were issued against him for carrying a concealed weapon, delivery and manufacturing of marijuana, possession of a firearm in the commission of a felony, and driving while license suspended, second or subsequent offense. The driver was arraigned the next morning and posted the required bond. The driver has since failed to show up for additional court dates and has not been seen since he posted bond. He is currently a fugitive at large. This case represents another outstanding example of a simple traffic stop turning into something much larger. Because of Officer Walton's tenacity and relentless determination and keeping his patrol district safe, an unregistered handgun and illegal marijuana was taken off our streets. Please join me as we recognize Officer Michael Walton with a letter of commendation. Dr. Terry Ellis. Just after midnight on the evening of September 30th, 2017, Dr. Terry Ellis was enjoying a small dinner party with friends on Duxbury Court here in the city of Novi. At no time did Dr. Ellis feel that he would be key to the survival of one of the guests at the dinner party. As the evening wore on, one of the guests began to have abnormal respirations and seemed to be nodding off. Dr. Ellis quickly recognized that the guest did not appear well and quickly sprang into action. A guest at the party contacted 911 while Dr. Ellis attended to the patient. And since the patient was still sitting in his chair, Dr. Ellis tipped the chair backwards, lowering the patient to the ground safely, just as he was taking his last breath. Dr. Ellis immediately began CPR on the patient, and the quick actions of Dr. Ellis and those at the party led to the patient regaining a pulse and spontaneously breathing on his own only after one round of CPR. If not for Dr. Ellis's quick actions, the situation may have ended differently. When Novi Fire Engine Team 3 arrived, the patient was still pale and weak, but able to answer questions. The patient informed responders that he was feeling fine, but had some chest discomfort. He was transported by community EMS to St. John's Providence Park Hospital here in Novi for further care, and the patient was later discharged from the hospital. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in recognizing Dr. Ellis for his quick actions and life-saving skills as we award him a civilian citation. Fire Protection Officer Pete Bruhan, Fire Protection Officer Ryan Cannon, Fire Protection Officer Scott Lewan, Fire Protection Officer Bashara Takla, and Captain John Martin. In the early afternoon of March 15, 2017, the Novi Fire Department was alerted to a call for someone who may have jumped from the Novi Road overpass onto I-96. Captain Martin arrived on scene ahead of Squad 1 and Engine 1 and blocked the westbound traffic with his command vehicle. Cautiously approaching the scene, Captain Martin found a female patient lying on the westbound I-96 freeway shoulder just below Meadowbrook Road. The patient was face down, conscious, unable to move, with obvious deformities to her arms and legs. Captain Martin conducted a rapid trauma assessment of the patient in order to inform responding crews of the patient's condition. Squad 1 and Engine 1's crew arrived on scene and initiated additional patient care, and Squad 1's team quickly began to assess the injuries and obtain the patient's vitals. Engine 1 readied the necessary equipment to immobilize and stabilize the patient, and once community EMS arrived, the patient was removed to the stretcher and rushed Priority 1 to a trauma center. Squad 1's team drove the ambulance to the hospital, allowing the paramedics to attend to the patient's injuries. The amount of time on scene was only 8 minutes and 20 seconds. In the case of a massive trauma such as this, the golden hour is essential to the patient's survival. The distance from the overpass down to the freeway was approximately 25 feet, and the patient was attempting suicide when she jumped from the overpass. 2 feet to the left, and the patient would have landed directly in the path of westbound I-96 traffic. Emergency room physician Dr. Sanford Veeder stated fast assessment and transport certainly saved this patient's life. The patient was diagnosed with a collapsed left lung, a fractured skull, dislocated jaw, broken ribs, and fractured right arm and leg. The patient required emergency surgery and further care for her injuries. Each of these team members standing before you played an integral role in the patient's survival. For their actions. We award Fire Protection Officers Pete Bruhan, Ryan Cannon, Scott Lewan, Bashara Takla, and Officer Captain Martin with a unit citation. Congratulations. Sergeant Amanda Kulikowski, Sergeant Christy Grunwald, Detective Randy Mintz, Detective Steve Baylog, Detective Michael Bender, and Officer Sarah Mulick. The United States is seeing an unprecedented opioid epidemic. And sadly, Novi is not immune to that. On November 18th, 2017, we were dispatched to an apartment on Wellington Drive for an unresponsive 26-year-old male. After 25 minutes of CPR and several doses of naloxone, the patient died. The investigation, however, was just getting started. Officer Mulik and Sergeant Kulikowski began to question the deceased's girlfriend, who was present in the department. She told officers that she and the deceased had been using fentanyl and heroin for over a week. On November 17, 2017, the two of them went to the 12 Oaks Mall and met their supplier. Their supplier had the two of them stand in line at a shoe retailer for a new shoe release, and in exchange, he gave them $50 worth of fentanyl. That night, the deceased got very high from the fentanyl, so high the girlfriend thought he had overdosed. The deceased was having convulsion and scratching uncontrollably, and rather than calling the police that night, she used her cell phone to record his actions so she could show the deceased his behavior after using too much fentanyl. The next day, the two of them used fentanyl multiple times. Eventually, the girlfriend took a nap, and when she woke up, she found the deceased slumped over. Through the use of social media and the girlfriend's knowledge of the supplier, officers and investigators were able to come up with a name and address for the supplier, a supplier who's now a suspect. A team of detectives was called to the scene to assist. Detective Mintz responded to process any evidence, while Detective Bender responded to the suspect's home to watch for any activity while a search warrant was being prepared. Armed with the search warrant, our detectives searched the suspect's home, where additional fentanyl was found, and the suspect was subsequently arrested. Detectives Grunwald and Baylog interviewed the suspect, at which time he provided a full confession, providing a detailed statement of how he met both the girlfriend, now witness, and the deceased, and how they stood in line for them and how he repaid them with fentanyl. The suspect told the detectives he provided the witness fentanyl multiple times in the past. On December 22nd of last year, the suspect was arraigned in the 52nd District Court here in Novi on charges of delivery narcotics, causing death, and possession of a controlled substance. The suspect was denied bail and is currently lodged in the Oakland County Jail, where he is now facing additional federal charges for delivery causing death. This case is another example of outstanding teamwork. For their efforts, their investigative skills, please join me in congratulating this team for their work as they are awarded a unit citation. Sergeant Michael Warren. In 2010, the Novi Police Department embarked on the offering of concealed pistol license classes to our residents and surrounding members of surrounding communities. Sergeant Warren was selected as the City of Novi's first concealed pistol license instructor, and since 2010, Sergeant Warren has hosted 51 classes, instructing more than 490 students on gun safety, related laws, and proper shooting and handling techniques. Over the years, Sergeant Warren has received numerous accolades from the students on his knowledge, professionalism, and his skilled presentations. One student wrote, "Words cannot express my profound gratitude for all your assistance in helping me in the class. Thank you, thank you, thank you." While another student wrote, "I just wanted to send you a quick note to thank you for the outstanding CPL class on February 4th. You made my family feel safe, and I'm confident in what they were learning." My wife said it was best when we were talking on the ride home. She said, "Mike's doing what he's supposed to be doing. Keep doing what you do, Sergeant Warren, and this world will be a better place." Sergeant Warren's classes have generated more than $72,000 in revenue used for maintenance and upgrades and supplies for the Firearms Training Center. Sergeant Warren is solely responsible for developing lesson plans, scheduling, and all other planning for the CPL classes. He takes advantage of each class as an opportunity to build public trust with all those in attendance. For his efforts in bringing a high degree of professionalism and excellence to the City of Novi, please join me in congratulating Sergeant Michael Warren as he is awarded the Merit Citation. Sergeant Kevin Ray. On July 7th, 2014, the Novi Police Department entered into an agreement with the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies, CALEA, in order to earn National Police Accreditation. Sergeant Kevin Ray was chosen as the Novi Police Department's accreditation manager and readily accepted the additional responsibilities. The first step in the accreditation process is a period of self-assessment, which is normally 36 months in duration. During this time, Sergeant Ray continually reviewed, modified, and developed departmental directives in order to meet 484 standards, which represent the best practices in the profession of law enforcement. In addition to meeting these standards, Sergeant Ray also collaborated with other employees to collect and load proofs of compliance required for accreditation, and he was always accessible to all staff members to answer any questions or clarify requirements from CALEA. This process was not only included police department staff, but those from our integrated solutions team, our community relations team, and our human resources department. Within the first 18 months of the period, Sergeant Ray, working with other subject matter experts within the department, was able to fully meet 416 of the standards. To test our progress and readiness for a full review by CALEA assessors, Sergeant Ray coordinated a mock assessment by other Michigan CALEA accredited agencies. Based on the feedback during the mock assessment, he made additional changes to some of our directives, and due to his diligent, collaborative, and thorough work, the self-assessment period was actually completed 3 months earlier than was anticipated. This would not have been possible without Sergeant Ray going above and beyond, committing countless hours before and after his normal shift and on weekends to the accreditation process and coordinating our annual mandatory training sessions for 6 weeks each year. Being resourceful, once all the required standards were met and proofs of compliance collected in our accreditation system, Sergeant Ray coordinated an on-site assessment with 2 CALEA assessors on March 12th through the 15th of 2017. In preparation for that, he collaborated with other supervisors to schedule subject matter experts and representatives from the department to participate in required static displays for the assessors, which followed an open house format showcasing our department's special assignments, our special teams, and standards which must be personally observed by the assessors. He also developed an extensive presentation that I was proud to present to the assessment team. During the on-site, assessors determined that the Novi Police Department was required to meet 406 of the 484 standards, which is determined by the size and various functions of the law enforcement agency. Of the 484 standards, 76 were other than mandatory or optional, which we did not have to meet. I'm very proud to report that the Novi Police Department met all but 9, or 88%, of the other than mandatory standards. And during the exit interview, both assessors expressed how professional, knowledgeable, friendly, and courteous our staff members presented themselves, particularly Sergeant Kevin Ray. This was evident to them based on staff interviews, ride-alongs with our officers, and comments from citizens and city staff during the phone-in and public comment session. The assessors additionally praised our commitment to provide excellent equipment, training, and a clean professional workplace, while pointing out our impressive overall score of 97.83% compliance for all standards, which they stated was extremely impressive for an agency with initial accreditation. On July 28, 2017, the Novi Police Department executive team, including Sergeant Ray, participated in an accreditation hearing with CALEA officials. The following evening, we received and awarded initial advanced law enforcement accreditation from the Commission on Law Enforcement Standards. Based on his experience and expertise with the CALEA accreditation process, Sergeant Ray was selected as the accreditation manager for the Michigan Law Enforcement accreditation process, which started in August of 2017. In just 2 short months, Sergeant Ray completed 98% of the Michigan Law Enforcement accreditation process. The accreditation process includes an on-site and full review of our files. And on Thursday, February 8th of this year, I'm proud to say the Novi Police Department was awarded Michigan Law Enforcement accreditation for the Michigan Association of Chiefs of Police, representing one of 3 agencies in the state of Michigan which holds both distinctions. Sergeant Kevin Ray was a finalist for the City of Novi Employee of the Year for his outstanding contributions in obtaining advanced law enforcement accreditation for the Novi Police Department in July of 2017, as well as for his activities in promoting the Michigan accreditation process. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure and with great honor that I present Sergeant Kevin Ray with the department's Leadership Award. Ms. Jennifer Davis, Mr. Ronald Goder, and Mr. Grant Gardella. Tragically, the Novi Police Department responded to what turned out to be a head-on fatal car accident on Beck Road near 9 Mile on Sunday, November 19, 2017. However, before rescue crews arrived, 3 citizens acted without hesitation, placing their own lives at risk to render aid to strangers. The Novi 911 Center was receiving multiple calls about the accident as callers were reporting CPR was in progress. Mr. Ronald Godair stopped his vehicle and ran to check on one of the drivers, and after ensuring his welfare, Mr. Godair checked on the second driver and noted he was not conscious and he was trapped in the vehicle. He then shouted to another civilian that stopped to assist with the accident, Mr. Gardella, to bring him a knife to cut the seatbelt. Ronald cut the seatbelt, and he and Grant worked as a team to remove the driver from the Honda Civic. The 2 of them initiated CPR. At the same time, a third civilian, a nurse, Jennifer Davis, stopped her vehicle to help. The 3 civilians performed CPR on the side of the road until emergency service crews arrived. Ronald Godair, Grant Gardella, and Jennifer Davis worked as a team, demonstrating courage and commitment as they helped perfect strangers during their time of need. Tragically, the second driver did not survive his injuries. Ronald Godair, Grant Gardella, and Jennifer Davis are being recognized tonight for their selfless bravery in a time of emergency. Please join me in recognizing these dedicated individuals and community members as we award them a civilian citation. Mr. Jeffrey Copy. Police work or rendering aid is just not for the police officers or firefighters. More than recognized, citizens find themselves in a position to help. Nurses, too, work very long hours, treating patients, caring for them, and making them comfortable as they see that their patients' every need. But that's at the hospital, while they're working long hours. Certainly not at an accident scene. At least that's what Mr. Copy thought. That all changed for Jeffrey on February 8, 2017. The Novi Police Department was policing an accident scene, and the officer could not get the driver's side door open on one of the vehicles involved. Mr. Copy, a registered nurse himself, came upon the scene. Recognizing the trouble that the officer was having, he entered the vehicle through the passenger side door and reached the 83-year-old female driver. At first, Mr. Copy just kept the driver awake and stabilized her head, but while rescue crews were arriving, that's when the driver stopped breathing. Jeffrey maintained an open airway and performed rescue breaths. The driver was quickly loaded into an ambulance and taken to the hospital. The driver remained in critical condition for 6 weeks in the intensive care unit. Fortunately, the driver has since returned home and has fully recovered from her injuries. If not for the heroic efforts of Jeffrey Copy, this driver may very well have died that day. The rescue breathing and his personal role was significant in saving the driver's life. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in recognizing this brave community member as we present Jeffrey Copy with the civilian citation. Mr. Brandon McCullough. I'm very proud to say the Novi Police and Fire Benevolent Association was created in 2011 to benefit the men and women of these organizations and public safety personnel from other communities during their times of need. In recent years, it's expanded to help disadvantaged families who may not have resources during the holiday season. Through a variety of fundraising events, the association seeks not only to raise funds, but also to enhance the community partnerships between the men and women of the Novi Police and Fire Departments and those they serve. The Benevolent Association is organized exclusively for charitable purposes to financially help the otherwise unmet needs of the poor, the distressed, or underprivileged, covering both departments of public safety employees and other members of the community, thus lessening the burden of government. The association may also, for such purposes, make distributions to other charitable organizations that qualify as exempt organizations. To date, the Novi Police and Fire Benevolent Association has raised more than $850,000, giving back $137,000 to 31 different requests for donations. Just today, the Board of Directors authorized a $5,000 donation to an Oakland County Sheriff's deputy who lost part of his hand while investigating a fire scene. The deputy, who's going to have to totally rego his training and forced to learn to shoot with his left hand versus his right, has 11 children, 5 of which who are special needs, and this is his sole income. We are very honored to present that family with a $5,000 check that they will receive in the next week. One of our significant fundraising events is the annual Victory Benefit Hockey Game between our Fire and Police Hockey All-Stars versus the Detroit Red Wing Alumni Hockey Team. For the past several years, Mr. Brandon McCullough, who also serves as one of our facilities directors in our Integrated Solutions team at the City of Novi, has helped not only assemble, but coach the hockey team. He's had the opportunity to assemble some of the finest hockey players, both men and women, from the Novi Police and Fire Departments, the Michigan State Police, the United States Secret Service, other surrounding agencies, and 2 players that come to us from as far away as Texas. Brandon volunteers his time to coordinate the team practices and coaches our team through the hockey game against some of the best Detroit Red Wing alumni. Brandon's generous contribution as the coach have helped raise over $45,000 for the Benevolent Association, and although his record is 0-2, we remain hopeful. On behalf of the men and women of the Novi Police and Fire Departments, our entire Benevolent Association board, and the countless families that this association has taken care of, I am honored to present Brandon McCullough with a civilian commendation. Congratulations. Pastor Mike Zerkich, Pastor June Smith, and Pastor Michael Meyer. Unfortunately, Pastor Meyer cannot be with us as his wife just underwent double lung replacement. Police chaplains serve in a variety of ways. They may be called upon to assist in death notifications, assist and support victims in times of crisis, respond to suicide incidents, and served as part of a crisis response team. They visit sick or injured personnel. They're a resource for counseling members of the agency and their families, and serve as a liaison with other clergy in the community. They are called upon to deliver the invocation or benediction at public ceremonies as representatives of the police department. The position of police chaplain is typically a special, non-certified position that carries no law enforcement powers, but does require that person have and develop a unique understanding of police work and the challenges many of our men and women face, as well as their families, on a daily basis. This understanding enables them to be a very effective part of the department, assisting inside and outside of the patrol car. The role of police chaplain can be a very demanding position, as their services can be requested at all hours of the night under all kinds of conditions. They are bound by the same ethics as law enforcement officers, especially when it comes to confidentiality, as well as by department policies and procedures. The Novi Police Department chaplains in June Smith, Michael Zerkich, and Dr. Michael Meyer serve the men and women of the police and fire departments in a volunteer capacity. They are called upon all hours of the day and night, and without hesitation, they respond immediately. In addition to responding to call-outs, they spent over 144 hours riding with police officers in 2017. Perhaps more importantly, together they spent over 273 hours meeting one-on-one with police officers in 2017, guiding and counseling as they navigate through their law enforcement careers and difficult situations they encounter. Although we cannot account for many of their hours, honestly, we will never really know the true number of countless hours they spend with our teams. Our chaplains have proven to be an invaluable and irreplaceable resource for all of our team members. In recognition of all their selfless efforts, it's my distinct honor to present them with a civilian citation. Congratulations. Mr. Joe Hitu. The property and evidence room of any police department is one of our most secure areas and is one which opens a police agency up for great liability. The property room requires a property room officer who is detail-oriented and pays attention to each piece of property, knowing what it is, where it's stored, after it's being logged in and cataloged. Joe Hitu joined the Novi Police Department in August of 2014. He retired from the Northville Township Police Department after more than a 2.5-decade career as a dedicated police officer. He then became our property and evidence officer for the city of Novi. The Novi Police Department's property room has never been cleaner, more organized, or more efficiently run. Recognizing the liability and extreme scrutiny a property room can come under, the police department embarked on restructuring the property room with a state-of-the-art electronic storage system. This shelving system quadrupled the storing capacity of the property room without expanding the size of the room 1 square foot. While increasing the storage capacity, the shelving system also enhanced the efficiency of logging property in and out of the property room, improving accountability while reducing liability, all contributing to yet another way the Novi Police Department seeks to build and sustain the trust. Joe was instrumental in the installation of the new property room shelving system, logging roughly 5,800 items out of the property room and into a new secure temporary storage area, identified as reliable, organized, and consistent with the best practice in preservation of chain of custody. This required coordinating with the Novi facilities team to move shelving units and maintain secure access to the room. Once the temporary evidence room was established, Joe monitored storage lockers for new property multiple times a day to ensure the lockers were always empty and always available. Once the new shelving system was initiated, each item had to be logged back into the property room and placed in a new storage bin with the new system. Noting an opportunity to inventory each item once again, Joe assisted with creating a new list of nearly 100 items that were slated for destruction. The nearly 4-week-long project was completed without issue and/or loss of public trust by systematically checking his and others' work while maintaining the chain of custody for evidence ranging from homicide cases to found bicycles. Multiple times throughout the year, there are surprise audits of the property room, and that one was simply completed just a couple weeks ago in February of 2018, where all items that were searched for were found. Joe makes himself available to assist in returning property to prospective owners by regularly flexing his schedule and during lunchtimes to accommodate the release of property, drug destruction, or other ancillary duties he might come across. Joe's always been willing to assist others above and beyond the property officer function. He picks up sexual assault kits and other evidence to assist detectives and volunteers to help our fleet maintenance section with vehicle transports when necessary. Joe is organized, he's detail-oriented in regards to the property room. He quickly adapts to understand which properties should be released and others that may require additional follow-up to complete. We have thousands of pieces of evidence that will be kept in that property room for the duration of sentences for people in prison for murder charges, and Joe is able to account for all of that property. He relies upon his years of police experience, also his grounded logic and reasoning when he suggests or implements proactive ideas. I am very proud to call Joe Hitu a colleague. I'm proud to have him on our team, and I'm even more proud in honoring Mr. Joe Hitu as our Civilian Employee of the Year. Congratulations. Could I ask Mr. Richard Schwaller to join me on stage, please? Ladies and gentlemen, Richard has been a Novi resident since 1986. Searching for a way to stay involved and to give back to his Novi community, we consider ourselves very fortunate Richard found our Community Emergency Response Team, better known as CERT. As one of our original members, Richard Schwaller joined the team in 2009, and since that time he's been an active CERT member, attending training sessions, volunteering for the Addicted to Movies Not Drugs all-night movie marathon, the Memorial Day Parade, and volunteers regularly at our Novi Palooza. Given Mr. Schwaller's volunteer spirit, it was no surprise when he was one of the first CERT members to offer his assistance in distributing bottled water to our residents during the water crisis in October of 2017. Ever committed to his volunteer spirit, Mr. Schwaller joined the Handicap Patrol team, and Mr. Schwaller showed his giving side as a trainer, training many of the new men and women who joined the team in handicap enforcement. His innovative personality shined when he helped to enhance the handicap patrol teams by updating old forms and policies, creating a tracking system for home watches, and scheduling training hours. In 2016, the Novi Police Department launched a new initiative known as Volunteers in Public Safety, or VIPS. VIPS enhanced our volunteers initiatives by combining volunteer patrols and handicap patrols into one program. To no one's surprise, Mr. Schwaller shined again as he acted as a training officer for our new VIPS members, training them in writing parking citations, conducting home watch checks, documenting their reports, and testifying in court. Recognizing teamwork, Richard worked with the police cadets, coming up with a home watch tracking system. In all, Mr. Schwaller has served over 320 hours of VIPS patrols with an additional 40-plus hours of service as a CERT member. Mr. Schwaller was still not satisfied with his community service. He was craving for more. His solution was a simple one. In 2017, he joined the Novi Police Department as a part-time school crossing guard, ensuring the safe travels of many of our youngsters at the crossing areas located throughout the city. His dedication to our community is reflected in the countless hours of volunteer time he's given back to the city of Novi. He embodies the Novi Police Department's mission statement of partners with our community. His dedication and commitment to service was never more evident than in 1950 when he served his country as a naval cadet assigned to the aviation unit and eventually earning his wings in the United States Navy. Mr. Schwaller served active duty from 1953 through 1956 during the Korean conflict. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in recognizing and honoring Mr. Richard Schwaller as our 2017 Volunteer of the Year. Officer Jason Bergtold. Officer Jason Bergtold started his career with the Novi Police Department in October of 2013. Since he joined our team, he has consistently demonstrated exceptional job knowledge, is sought out by others for guidance, and has proven to need very little supervision. He can be relied upon to give his best effort on a daily basis. His investigations are comprehensive and well organized. He shows initiative in all phases of job requirements and can be counted on to make correct decisions even in the most difficult of situations. Officer Bergtold is a member of our field training officer cadre, and he shows great patience with our new recruits and is able to guide them through the most difficult areas of concern. Jason's capable of holding recruits accountable while giving them the necessary feedback to keep them improving and keep them moving forward in the training process. Lieutenant Melson made a supervisor recognition entry into Guardian tracking in August of last year, recognizing Officer Bergtold's exemplary manner in which he carried out his assigned tasks as a field training officer. Jason's consistently a top performer in self-initiated field arrests. In 2017, he was ranked number 1 in overall arrests with 146 with 855 traffic stops. Officer Bergtold is a 3-time recipient of the department's MAD Award, and in 2017, he ranked number 2, right behind Officer Johnson, in the department for overall drunk driving arrests. He's shown fantastic instincts in finding narcotics in vehicles he stops. He does an excellent job questioning vehicle occupants and often gains consent to search the vehicles, all within the parameters of the Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution. Many motorists simply tell Officer Bergtold where the narcotics are located after a short interaction with him. And in 2017, Officer Bergtold made 18 arrests for drunk driving or similar violation, and 17 possession of marijuana or possession with intent to deliver, and possession of cocaine arrests, and 2 arrests for additional felony dangerous drugs. On March 18th of 2017, he was dispatched to an address on Cranbrook Drive for a malicious destruction of property report. Several mailboxes and lawns were damaged by a group of young men in a pickup truck, and Jason worked to identify all the victims and obtain detailed witness statements, which allowed a well-developed description of the suspects and the vehicle to be obtained. Armed with the needed information, Sergeant Brian Woloski was able to locate the suspects in the parking lot of Village Oaks Elementary School. The suspects were subsequently arrested, and Jason was able to obtain confessions from 2 of the 4 suspects. By conducting this thorough investigation and working as a team with other officers, Officer Bergtold was able to arrest 4 suspects for felony malicious destruction of property. On June 25th of 2017, Officer Bergtold responded to a domestic violence complaint on Pamplona Lane. The victim was not able to provide a statement as she was going in and out of consciousness at the hospital. Officer Bergtold, however, was able to interview the father of the victim, who was a witness in the incident. And although there was a language barrier, a language-line interpreter was used, and despite these obstacles, Jason was able to obtain a thorough statement from the father and establish probable cause to arrest the perpetrator. Since the incident involved the victim being strangled by her husband, the charge was enhanced to a felony. And even though some difficulties were encountered initially during his investigation, Jason remained persistent and was able to protect the victim from an abusive spouse. On October 2nd of 2017, Officer Bergtold was working in his field training capacity. He and his recruit officer conducted a traffic stop on a vehicle that was registered to an owner with a suspended license. A search of the driver found a bag of marijuana tucked inside his waistband, and additional marijuana was found inside the vehicle along with a scale. A container disguised as an Arizona tea can was located in the vehicle that contained 4 more small bags of marijuana and MDMA, commonly known as ecstasy or the date rape drug. Many more small bags similar to these in the Arizona tea were located in the vehicle as well. With all the evidence located, a felony possession with intent to deliver a controlled substance was established, and several $100s in cash was seized. This case not only demonstrates Officer Bergtold's ability to establish felony drug cases, but also to train a new officer in this critical skill. On October 29, 2017, Officer Bergtold responded to Stayin' Alive nightclub in 12 Mile Crossing regarding a suspicious person. A drunk and disorderly person had been kicked out of the establishment and was located by officers near Bar Louie. Officer Bergtold obtained a consent from the suspect to search him, and it was determined that the suspect had fugitive warrants for his arrest from 2 other police departments. The suspect was therefore seated in the rear of his car. While waiting for additional information from the departments holding warrants, the suspect started kicking the side window of Officer Bergtold's cruiser. Officer Bergtold had to physically struggle with the suspect, who was still in the back of his patrol car, with the assistance of other officers. He pulled the suspect out of the vehicle, allowing handcuffs to be applied, and the suspect was then transported to police headquarters, and during the transport continued to kick out the back patrol windows. The suspect was placed in a cell without completing booking procedures due to his aggressive behavior, and he eventually was booked when he was no longer intoxicated, with his original preliminary breath test at 0.21%. Officer Bergtold showed he was able to remain calm and decisive while dealing with a combative and resistant prisoner. No one was injured during this incident, due in large part to Jason's abilities to safely deal with an intoxicated and combatant prisoner. Officer Bergtold also investigated 2 criminal sexual conduct cases throughout 2017. One occurred in May, with the second occurring in October. During both cases, his thorough investigation and comprehensive report provided a strong foundation upon which the respective cases could be built. The detectives can conduct follow-up and criminal charges obtained. In particular to the May incident, Jason obtained a detailed statement from the victim and enough information to allow for a quick and positive identification of the suspect. The October incident involved the victim reporting her ex-boyfriend assaulting her and forcing her to perform non-consensual sexual activity. The report was taken at the hospital, and again, Officer Bergtold obtained a thorough and detailed statement from the victim, allowing for a positive identification of the suspect in an effective time frame. His detailed report established a professional account of the serious crime and was essential for successful prosecution. During both investigations, Officer Bergtold showed great attention to detail and professionalism while working through difficult investigations. His empathetic manner is ever present in how he writes the complex police reports. In January of 2017, Sergeant Woloski received a letter from a Milford resident regarding Officer Bergtold. She explained how she was at Buffalo Wild Wings in early January of that year watching a football game, and when she got home, she was unable to find her purse. She returned to Buffalo Wild Wings, but still could not find her purse. She drove to the Novi Police Department, where she met and spoke with Officer Jason Bergtold. He listened attentively and explained to her that he would review any possible video and follow up on any possible leads to help her find her purse. They also discussed the importance of not leaving certain identifying and high-value items in the purse. The citizen described Officer Bergtold as patient, understanding, caring, and someone who put her at ease. She returned home, where she eventually found her purse. When calling Jason, she had learned that he had already followed up on the investigation as promised. He had already watched numerous sections of video showing her leaving Buffalo Wild Wings with her purse. She wrote in her letter, "I was fortunate that I had a police officer like Officer Jason Bergtold who cared enough about his job to not only do exactly what he said he would, and did it almost immediately, but provided me with the tools to keep a lost and stolen purse from becoming a major issue in the future." Ladies and gentlemen, this is just one example of how Jason Bergtold always gives the extra effort, regardless of whether the incident is a violent crime or a lost purse. Jason always brings great credit upon himself, the entire Novi Police Department, and to our community of Novi as a whole. A similar effort was demonstrated on an accident report in October 25th of 2017, and the accident report listed 18 different movements or collisions performed by the suspect that occurred in a local city park. Even though it was just some property damage caused by a vehicle accident, Officer Bergtold took the time to thoroughly investigate and document the incident in a professional, detailed report. In just 3 weeks after that report was filed, the city of Novi was able to recover tens of thousands of dollars in damaged property because of the work of Officer Jason Bergtold. The cases I have cited tonight show a common thread of Officer Bergtold being consistent and thorough in all of his actions and all of his investigations. He follows every lead and doesn't quit even when encountering obstacles. He's able to make arrests by simply being persistent. Jason is the type of officer that everyone wants to see on scene when a difficult situation is encountered. Just recently, he has been certified as a drug recognition expert, or DRE, that will allow him, with great accuracy, to determine what drug a person may be under the influence of, particularly while operating a motor vehicle. Completing this training has put Jason Bergtold in an elite company, as very few officers across the country ever receive this sophisticated instruction. He will be the first Novi police officer to be a certified DRE and one of only 13 throughout Oakland County. Officer Bergtold has become a positive, informal leader on his team and in our department and throughout our community. Other officers on the team seek him out for advice, as he's a positive role model for other officers to emulate. He's a self-starter who needs little supervision. He brings a positive attitude to work every single day, and his work product is outstanding. He's the model of consistency. Jason remains active during his shifts and takes enforcement action when appropriate with the utmost in conscientiousness. He's a highly decorated member of the Novi Police Department with 2 letters of commendation, a department citation, and a 3-time recipient as the Mother Against Drunk Driving Award. Officer Bergtold's accolades haven't stopped in Novi, as he was recognized as the Rookie Officer of the Year in 2014 by the Michigan chapters of Mothers Against Drunk Driving. It is my distinct honor, and I am very proud to add another accolade to his list as we recognize Officer Jason Bergtold as the Novi Police Officer of the Year for 2017. As you all know, these types of ceremonies, they don't happen by accident. I'd like to thank all the members who submitted their respective award nominations and for the work performed by our awards board for reviewing and authoring this most deserved recognition. I'd also like to recognize and thank our administrative assistant, Renee Landis, for her hard work and the countless hours she spent preparing the awards for this evening. Renee, can you please stand? In addition, I'd like to thank our community relations team, Director Cheryl Walsh-Malloy, Nathan Mueller, Josh Busher, Damon Parnell, and Abby Leffler, and our facilities team for the preparation of this room here this evening and coordinating the setup, the photography, the video, and the sharing via social media, which has been an invaluable service. Thank you. I'd also like to once again congratulate all the citizens and department members recognized here this evening. In addition, I'd also like to thank those who attended this evening who may have not received an award, yet took time to honor their colleagues with your presence and your words of support and praise. I offer a heartfelt thanks to the family members of our firefighters, our dispatchers, our police officers, who stand by our team members and their loved ones every single day and night, not knowing if Mom will return home safely or if Dad made it through this tour of duty. Your support does not go unnoticed, so thank you. You all have my highest praise and appreciation, for without you, this event would not be possible. To all of our first responders and supporters here this evening, I say thank you for everything you do. At this point in time, I'd like to introduce Chaplain June Marshall Smith to perform our benediction.
Let us pray. O most holy one, We thank you for making us instruments of your peace and order. Let our public safety department, with every officer, police officer, firefighter, be a blessing to this world, set an example, and living as a beacon of hope. Help our public service officers to honor their code and to serve according to the golden rule, to do unto others as we would like to be treated. For those present and those they represent, those not present today, place them under the mantle of your divine grace and protection. In all we do, we give honor and the glory to you. Shalom, salam, peace. Go in peace. Thank you. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Marshall Smith. I'd like to remind all of our award winners that we will gather afterwards to take photographs. We will start with our firefighter, police officer, civilian, and volunteer of the year. Again, I'd like to thank you all for coming out this evening. This concludes our 2018 awards ceremony. May God bless you.